I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein. It's back to school time. I've got some ways to make your back to school food better for your student and for you today on SoFlo Taste.
This is South Florida. It's where I live and work. I'm Chef Michelle Bernstein. South Florida is more than sun, sand, and sea. It's a lifestyle of fashion, sound, culture, and of course, food. Food with taste from all over the world. Join me as we celebrate the food of South Florida
And the people who love it.
Join me as we experience SoFlo Taste.
Good morning and welcome to SoFlo Taste in our kitchen here at JA World in Coconut Creek. Well, we knew this day was coming, the day when we packed the kids back off to school. And if this back to school day surprised you, as it always surprises me, stay where you are because I've got some recipes that might make it easier to get your kids up in the morning and energized for their after-school activities. So let's get cooking. I know that they sell frozen protein-packed waffles, but I thought, well, what if I make my own waffle in the way that I want to make it with all the flavors that I want? Freeze them, throw them in the freezer, and Zachy can pull them out of the freezer. They're already basically made, so all he has to do is warm them up and put, of course, his favorite topping on it. He forgoes the maple syrup for the Nutella. And of course, I thinly slice some strawberries or cherries and put it on the top. This is a great way to get a little something good into your kids before they go off to school. And just think, maybe they can also throw them into a toaster and heat them up as well. So I chose some very healthy ingredients. We're starting out with whole wheat flour, and the protein that we're adding in this is actually a plant-based protein. The number one ingredient in this plant-based protein is actually pea. There's also hemp and quinoa and all kinds of great stuff in here. It does have a little bit of a smell, but it smells delicious and vanilla-y. So I chose a vanilla-based plant protein powder. Baking powder and baking soda goes into this, so they become nice and fluffy. And just a tiny pinch of salt. So go ahead and mix up your dry ingredients really well. This is the chance you'll get. And then let's just mix the wet ingredients together. So there's milk, and if your children or you do not eat dairy, then you can go ahead and use oat milk, and it worked out great. That's actually my favorite vegan milk. A little bit of vanilla, you would use extract. This is a paste, my favorite stuff. You can find this stuff online. It's delicious and it's pretty potent, but you can always use extract, of course. And then finally, a couple of eggs. All right, so you're gonna whisk your wet ingredients together. Just make sure that the eggs are well mixed in. I have my waffle iron on and ready and hot. All right, so go ahead and add the dry into the wet. Okay, let's combine that. And once it gets a little too tough to mix with a whisk, actually it's not. I was gonna say to switch it, but we're good. Then finally, last ingredient is a little bit of vegetable oil. I always love grapeseed. It's nice and neutral. Mix that in. Okay, that is it. That is our waffle mix. From there, go ahead and come over to your waffle iron. Use a little bit of spray oil. They say about a tablespoon or so is all you need, but I never think that's quite enough. It does look really thick. Well, it is really thick, but it worked out beautifully. All right, now we're good. So we're gonna go ahead and wait for that to be ready. I'm gonna slice up some strawberries, just like I do for Zach. So really nice and thin so that you could just layer them on. Just like so. So of course I overfilled it just a little bit because my waffle iron is popping up. I'm waiting for the green light, literally, to tell me that they are ready. So come right back, the waffles will be ready by then. And then of course, I have two other great dishes moving on for our day and things that the kids will love during and after school.
SoFlo Taste will return right after this.
Welcome back to my school food show. All right, so waffles are beautiful and ready. They're nice and crispy on the outside, and you can either serve your child or yourself the whole thing, or you can cut it. It's up to you. Let's go ahead and cut that, I guess, in quarters. So I've cooked it all the way through, and this is the part that would be fun for your child to do. So I know that it's chocolate and I know that it's sugar, but this waffle is so beautifully healthy that I didn't think y'all would mind. I mean, it's basically almost as bad as maple syrup, maybe a little bit worse, but it's delicious. So you just kind of throw the slices of fruit right on top, like so. And like I said, cherries, bananas, whatever it is your kids like, raspberries, blueberries, and have a little bit of fun with it. So the next recipe that I thought I'd make, in my family, everybody loves a good egg roll. So how could I make an egg roll a little more wholesome? What I did was, rather than cutting up some chicken breasts, I got a little bit lazy and I bought some chicken tenders. And of course, these chicken tenders are from Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market. Thanks, guys. The ingredients for the marinade are simply a little bit of soy sauce, some peeled and very finely minced ginger, a little bit of brown sugar. That could be honey instead, by the way. A little bit of freshly chopped garlic. And finally, any kind of oil you might have around, but I wouldn't do olive oil, it's too strong, so like a neutral oil. When I say neutral, I usually mean like a grapeseed or a safflower or something to that effect. So mix that up and put in either your chicken breast sliced nice and thin or chicken tenders. And you could do that overnight if you wanted to, or just a couple of hours, totally up to you. So that's what I have cooking in this pan. They're actually almost done. Or if you wanted, you could bake them. All right. The next ingredients I wanted to use were a bunch of vegetables. And the best way, let's face it, to get kids to eat vegetables are to hide them in things. Now, my son happens to love vegetables, so he'd actually rather eat vegetables probably than protein. So I didn't have to hide it. But if you do, cut things really small. So we have some very finely chopped mushrooms, a little bit of cabbage, which if you don't feel like slicing, you could always buy a bag of like a pre-made coleslaw mix without, obviously, the mayonnaise. Some very finely julienne carrots, scallions, and then again, finally a little more garlic and ginger if you want to, since you already cut some for the marinade. So these are basically done. I'm going to set these over here for a second. Go ahead and take a saute pan and add a little bit of peanut oil if you have any. If not, any neutral oil is totally fine. And go ahead and saute all the vegetables. I actually don't add in the scallions until the end because I don't want them to wilt too much. I think I decided to cut the mushrooms as fine as they are because for some reason, mushrooms with children is a hard sell. With mine, it's not. Maybe because I love mushrooms so much and he got used to them, but a lot of kids don't like to see the mushrooms. Once everything gets nice and soft and sautés up pretty well, we're gonna cook it for, I would say, about 3-4 minutes until they start getting nice and soft. Then once they get a little soft, you shut it off and add the tiniest bit of soy sauce, sesame oil, and finally those scallions. And then you cut those chicken up really nice and thin. And this is the beautiful mix that you get. So this is taking those little tenders, slicing them nice and thin. It's just softening all those vegetables and adding a little bit of flavor to it. And that's it, but you want it to be really cold when you make your egg roll or spring roll. Spring roll wrappers can be found in pretty much anywhere at this point. It used to be that you could only find them in Asian markets, but now they're available all over. Always keep a moist towel on them to keep them nice and moist. A little bit of cornstarch mixed with water seals it up beautifully. You can just use water if you want to, but this works even better. And I decided to make them a little more like the Vietnamese style in that when they are done frying, I'm going to serve them with a little lettuce leaf to put them into. So let's begin our rolling. I have my oil on ready to fry, and you can bake these as well if you want to. You can put them on a sheet pan, spray the sheet pan with a little bit of oil spray, and top it with a little bit of oil spray after you make the spring rolls, and they bake beautifully. Let me show you a couple how to make it, and I really want them perfect. So try to follow these simple rules. Make it like a diamond shape in front of you rather than like a square. Place a really small amount. The smaller amount, the better your spring rolls usually will turn out, or egg roll. I go with about 1.5 tablespoons of filling. Make sure you evenly get some of the veggies and some of the chicken in there, okay? I always keep a little wet towel, by the way, for my fingers. So start rolling and really want it really nice and tight. Okay. At about this point, you're about halfway up. Take both sides as if you were making a little gift, and you really want it to be even, and pull them in. And then keep on rolling, making sure it's as tight as possible. And let's finish off with a little bit of this slurry of cornstarch and water. Just like so. You can fry them now or you can fry them later. You can always freeze this. They freeze beautifully. Just make sure that they are wrapped really well in plastic wrap and that you don't have them touching one another, okay? And that's it. That's how you make an egg roll or a spring roll. Pretty simple. Let's go ahead and fry a couple. They fry very quickly. The only thing we're doing is getting them nice and crisp. We're not looking to cook the inside because they're already cooked. Fry them at 350 degrees. My favorite oil to fry is usually either peanut or grapeseed. I've been using that a lot, I know, but they really are the best frying oils. Okay, so when you're frying, make sure you always have a little cookie sheet with some paper towels ready to go, because you don't want to be ready with your food before you're ready with your tray. So our spring rolls / egg rolls are looking beautiful. They're not greasy at all. Nice and crispy. They did not explode, thank goodness, because we did not overfill them. That was really important. Okay, so I would wait a minute before you serve them to the kids. You don't want to serve them piping hot. You could do one of two things. You could serve them whole, or you can cut them in half. Cutting them in half would probably make it a little bit easier for the kids to eat them. I have a little side of dipping sauce. It's basically just soy sauce. If you want to make something fancier, take a little bit of that ginger, garlic, sesame oil and put it in there. But my son goes crazy with just simple soy sauce. Cut it just in half like so. It's beautiful. Serve it with a little lettuce leaf. It gets your kids to eat lettuce, believe it or not. Just these simple little tricks is all you need. Let's do one more. And this was fairly simple, and I have to say extremely inexpensive. The cost of all these things is very low, and what a great way to get your kids to eat their vegetables. And there you have it. Come right back, and of course I have more. It never ends. Welcome back to SoFlo Taste. We're here at JA World in Coconut Creek, where it's back to school for them too. For information about JA World and what it does for our children, go to jasouthflorida.org or call 954-979-7100. Now back to school foods. So the last recipe I wanted to teach you all is actually a mini empanada. So these can be made big or small, and my son loves eating empanadas for lunch at school because you can eat it with one hand, it's easy, it's all packed in there into a little pastry. It's good to go. You can make your own empanada dough, which by the way is really easy, or of course you can buy them. For this I wanted to show you how to buy them because I'm trying to make your life simpler. Now that we're back to school, there's a lot going on. So these actually are called copetin, not the brand name, but the size. So they're really nice and small, which you can easily do if you have a little cutter, a little mold to cut them. But if you want to buy them and make your life easier, easy enough. My mom used to do that half the time. She used to make them sometimes, and she used to buy them sometimes. All right. So I am cooking a little bit of ground beef mixed with ground chicken. I thought I'd lighten it up with a little bit of chicken. Thanks to Delaware Chicken Farm and Seafood Market. It's delawarechicken.com. And they pretty much have anything, and they'll grind pretty much anything you want. I'm just cooking them in the tiniest amount of oil possible, and then adding a little bit of very finely chopped sweet onions, a red bell pepper cut up nice and small, some minced garlic, and then for my spices, I'm always afraid to add too much cumin when I'm cooking for my son, but for some reason he loves it. So I went light with my spices. So I decided to do cumin and a tiny pinch of cinnamon to give it a nice warm smell to it. And it came out really nice. It's a little softer than I would normally make for adults. I made it especially for children in mind in this recipe. The next thing I want to add is actually the raisin. A lot of people add them at the end, but I love adding them closer to the beginning because they cook down and they almost become, they like melt away, but still have a little bit of sweetness in there. And that we're almost done, believe it or not, with the ingredients. You want everything to really be nice and soft before adding the tomato paste. So once your onions and peppers have gotten translucent, well, the onions and nice and soft, go ahead and add tomato paste and really let that cook down. And finally, a little bit of chicken stock. When making this for adults, I would add a little bit of sherry or dry white wine. But for kids, I'll go ahead and add a little bit of chicken stock, or water is perfectly fine. So basically, you just cook that down until the liquid almost totally evaporates. Add a little bit of salt and pepper, and you have yourself a beautiful and a little bit lighter empanada filling for kids. You take that empanada filling, you get it really nice and cold. My mother would never make an empanada with her meat filling until the next day. She wanted it all to coagulate. You take a mini or a full-size empanada, depending on what you feel like. Go ahead and you can add flour or not, it's up to you, by the way. Some people find it a little easier to work with a little bit of flour. Not really necessary, but it's up to you. Wet the outside rim all along the outside, and then put a little bit of filling right in the center. Make sure you get a little raisin in there. And then close her up. I like to lift, pushing all that filling in. Seal it. And then finally taking a fork and close it up even better. So I have a 400-degree oven behind me, which I already have some empanadas. I never put parchment paper down. I always spray a pan, put the empanada on, spray that, and bake until they're basically golden. Because once they're golden, they're ready to go. Let me show you how these turned out. One of them leaked just a little bit, but they're beautiful. So they're nice and golden. They're nice and small. They're easy to grab onto. So you can either give your kids these as snacks, or you can wait until they cool a little bit and then wrap them up in some aluminum foil to give the kids in their lunchbox. That is my son's absolute favorite lunch at school, is an empanada with a bunch of snacks. It's delicious, it's filling, and who can say no? Come right back. Thanks for joining me today, and if you've got kids heading back to school soon, try these recipes on them and let me know how they like them, or let me know how you like them. You'll probably both be sharing. Next week is either a sad show because I'm having my last cookout of the summer, or a happy show because I'm having my first cookout of fall. Either way, join me outside at Pelican Harbor for some beef kebabs, baby carrots, and chickpea salad. That's next time on SoFlo Taste Cookout Edition. Now let's get a look in from Martin Amado. Good morning, Martin. What are you doing on SoFlo Home Project today?
Hi Michelle, today's show is kind of a workout because we are touring a 4-story townhome. Yes, you heard right, 4 stories. Coming up on SoFlo Home Project, interior designer Krista Waterworth gave each floor a unique style and function, and I can't wait to show it to you.
Thanks, Martin. Sounds like you're taking the show to new heights. So taste buds, have a great week, and I'll see you next time outside for a cookout. Goodbye and good taste. Stay in school.